As a concept, I should have loved this book. It has a cruel but handsome prince. It has a strong, fierce, and independent female character. It has a magical world, political intrigue, romance. It has all the ingredients that I like. But actually, I found the book a bit disappointing. It's not bad. I did enjoy it, but there were some aspects of it I thought were lacking a bit. So I want to make this video to discuss the whole series, The Folk of the Air. So the 3 books, The Cruel Prince, The Wicked King, and The Queen of Nothing. First, we're going to talk about the story without spoilers, so this could work as a guide for anyone who is planning to read it. You can watch this to decide if this book is for you or not. And in the second part, we are going into spoilers and we're going to discuss the story and the characters a bit more in detail. So let's go! Folk of the Air is a fantasy trilogy that follows Jude Duarte. Sorry if I mispronounce the names. So Jude is the main character. She is a human girl who ends up living in the fair world. She comes from our contemporary world. Like it's this basically the Cruel Prince takes place nowadays, but in the fair world that is hidden from the humans. So all those magical creatures, they live amongst the people, but they're hiding. And sometimes they do come to the human world. And as in the folk tales, they sometimes trick people with clever bargains and they take them to the fair world. But in our case, in the case of Jude, her parents are killed and she's taken to the fair world. I'm not sure how much of a spoiler is to say who takes her to the fair world, but I will leave that surprise to you. But she's taken by one of the fairy creatures, one of the magical creatures, to live in this world with her 2 sisters. She has an older sister, Vivian, who is part fae, and then there is her twin sister, and the 3 of them go to this fair world. And of course, they have trouble adjusting there. Sometimes they're seen as less than others because they're just humans and they don't have magic. But what they can do is they can lie, because the fae cannot lie. So the fact that Jude can lie plays a big part in her way of dealing with her situation. Basically, the story is mainly about her struggle to gain more power, because she has grown into this world of immortal creatures that are very beautiful, that are very kind of special, and she's kind of afraid of them, low-key afraid of them, and she tried to overcompensate. I hope this is not much of a spoiler, but it's just like the basic premise of the story. Obviously, she is just a human girl and everyone is kind of better than her. That's why she kind of wants more power. She wants to have her place in this world. She's kind of obsessed of finding her place in this fairy world. She's both fascinated by those creatures and scared of them. It's kind of complicated relationship with this. Like Jude has a complicated relationship with the whole world that surrounds her, and she's trying to find her place in it. And this is kind of an interesting premise. She is very proactive character. She's always like 1 step ahead of everything, and she always has a plan. It doesn't work all the time in her favor, but she's very proactive. It's kind of like the typical YA heroine. Like she is good with fighting and she is clever, but of course she has her own weaknesses and insecurities. She wants to protect her sisters and her family and herself. And actually, this is like a little spoiler, so if you want you can skip it, but the beginning of the story of the Cruel Prince is very, very similar to a Japanese manga. Official English name is Boys Over Flowers, but it has many adaptations. Like the original story is Japanese and has Japanese TV series. There is Korean drama, there is Thai drama. This story has been told many times, and I have seen, I think, 2 adaptations plus the anime. And when I started to read this book, I was like, okay, this is the same story. Why is the same story? Because the premise is exactly the same. There is this girl, and in her school there are these 4 cool rich, handsome guys, and their leader is very cruel, very nasty person, and she kind of goes head to head with him. Basically, she stands against him, and then they develop a romance and so on. So in this book, in The Cruel Prince, they have the same dynamic. Like Jude goes to school and there is Cardan, the Crow Prince, and his friends who are like the most handsome, self-centered, cruel people, and they go against her. So at the beginning I was taken aback by this, and I felt like, is it going to be like the same story but in fair world? After a while the story deviates, so I think maybe Holly Black just got the idea from this show, but then she developed it in completely different way. So if you happen to have seen the original, if you watch Korean dramas or Japanese anime, and if you have seen Boys Over Flowers and you start to read this and you think it's the same, it's not the same. It's just maybe half the book has similar premise, but then it deviates in a different direction. The good things about this book, I think the first book, The Crow Prince, was the most interesting to me. It's a quick to read, pacing goes fast. I mean, there are a few moments when it kind of slows down, but Jude is always doing something. So she's always like pushing the plot forward, or something happens to her. But she's very proactive. But the problem is, I think that besides Jude, the rest of the characters I don't think are so well developed. They're interesting, like concepts, like for example, the Crow Prince, Cardan. He's a very interesting character. There is something very fun about this kind of characters, but he's not as present in the book as I thought he would be. He is not so proactive as Jude is. He's drunk most of the time. I felt like he was a bit underwhelming in a way. Like I thought he would do more, that he would be more interesting, that there will be more banter between them, more confrontation between them. Of course, during the course of the series, we discover his past, we discover the reasons of why he is so cruel, why he's behaving badly. Of course, it's explained, like most of the time with this type of characters, there is some reason for them to be like this. But I don't think that was enough to justify their relationship. It felt more like she's fascinated with him, but I don't know. I don't think that the relationship was very well developed, but it's okay. Like the romance, their relationship is more like on the background. It's not bad. It's just like, it's very basic and you kind of know how it's gonna go. But it's fine. It's just not wow, it's okay. But for me, it wasn't such a big problem that romance was a bit undeveloped, rather than that Cardan, like the character himself, didn't have much more to do. Actually, I bought the additional book, this one, which is supposed to retell some of the events from his perspective. I haven't read it yet. I feel like if we had more perspectives in this book rather than Jude, it could have been more interesting, because we are just with her. Kind of the world narrows down to her experience, to her viewpoint, and I feel like we couldn't really explore more things about this world that could have been interesting. And also her sisters were not the bad characters, but again, not very well developed. Her adoptive father, Madoc, he was more interesting as a concept, but again, I felt like some of the reasons for his actions were not very well justified. Now, besides the characters, there is the plot, right? The plot is more like, as I said, Jude's trying to gain more power, and she doesn't always do it with fighting. She does it more with clever thinking and a little bit of intrigue. But I thought, because people said that this book is more political intrigues and backstabbing, and so I thought that it's gonna be a bit more complicated. I don't know, it felt like Jude didn't have a very strong opponent, but I will speak about this more in the spoilers, and I think it has to do with the fact that I found most of the other characters undeveloped, so I never felt like she really has someone to beat. There were not enough intrigues in this book. There were some twists and turns, for sure. There were some very cool moments that things just went in completely unexpected direction. There were some scenes that were cool, really. That's true, but I expected a bit too much from this book. That's why I want to tell you that you shouldn't, this is very much a YA book about a girl trying to find her place in the world, and she's a bit too cool and too capable, as most of those people are. I think she's a fun character. Even though she has some of the tropes of the YA heroine, I think she was fun to read. But if you expect a very prominent romance or a very prominent political intrigue, it's a bit of everything, but nothing is very strong. But it's a quick read, it's enjoyable read, so if your expectations are a bit lower, I think you can enjoy it more. And then there's one other thing I want to mention, which is the world building. I found the world building very superficial. Why? Because they all live on this island and the world felt so small. Like she could walk from her house to the king's palace, and there is some place in the north which I never understood where exactly it is. And then all those creatures are coming to the palace to dance and to have parties. What else are they doing? How are they getting along? Like, how is this world even working? I felt like maybe the author relies a lot on like myths and legends to explain who those characters are. But I don't know, I felt the world was just a background, not very fleshed out. It was still very enchanting world. Like when you go to those events in the palace, the whole atmosphere was very enchanting, very beautiful, also a bit dangerous and wicked. And I like that, but I felt like it was just like, you know, you're a theater play and the background is just painted on the wood and doesn't have a 3D dimension. It doesn't have depth. You don't feel like it's part of something big. It just feels small. And when it feels small, even the stakes feel small. I would have liked a bit more detail about this world personally, you know. But I think maybe for other readers, the fact that there is not too much world building could be a plus, because maybe they are just looking for this vibe, fair world vibe, and they don't really care of how it functions at all. So in general, I think the Folk of the Air is enjoyable, easy to read, quick to read. It has some cool moments. It has some unexpected twists and turns. And the main character, Jude, is very proactive, very cool. You know, if you like these kind of characters, you would love her. Cardan, her love interest, is magnetic and alluring, and he has a lot of charm. But I think the world building in the character work lacks a bit of depth, a bit of detail. And maybe that's intentional because those books are not very big. They're easy and quick to read. So if you don't care so much about character depth or world building, you could enjoy this a lot. Just don't expect a very prominent romance, okay? The romance is a background and there is not much smut scenes or stuff like that. There are some kisses and some fade to black moments, and I think they're pretty well done. Yeah, I think the chemistry between the two characters is good. I don't know how justified is their romance. In fact, how they fall for each other is a bit, you know, it's appropriate for the genre and it's appropriate for YA, so just expect that. Now let's go into spoilers and talk a bit more in detail. I really liked the first book the most, The Cruel Prince, because I felt like this book had the most interesting events. Like the whole royal family was killed and everything was in kind of upside down, and Jude had to make very quick decisions. Her scenes with Cardan were fun, and the way she tricked everyone at the end was fun. There were some unnecessary scenes here and there, but I think as a whole I really enjoyed the first book, and also because I felt like there is more coming, and I thought that in the second and the third book things are going to get even more interesting and complicated. That didn't really happen in that way. Like I felt like the second book, The Wicked King, I wanted more of Cardan. I wanted him to do more, whatever that was, but he was so passive. At some point I felt like he's only drinking. Maybe we were supposed to feel more sympathetic towards him when we learned his childhood, but I gathered even from the first book that he was mistreated. Both him and Jude have a lot of trauma and a lot of things they need to overcome. So I like that the fact that they came together. I think they work well together, but I wanted them to work more together, to have a better communication, to have some plan together, you know, because that's something that I like in when there is a romance, to see the character develop some relationship. Here it felt very, very young adult. I don't know what I expected, but whatever. The point is, as I said before, the problem is not that the relationship wasn't well developed. The problem is the Cardan was not so well developed. And then there is Madoc. Well, he and Jude had a very twisted relationship. Like the fact that he killed her parents and she had to live with him. At the beginning of the book, I was like, how is she even willing to be with him? Like, for me it was a bit weird that the girls would even want to live with this monster and not just scream in terror every time he shows up. But let's say that they accepted the fate and they were very young and they adapted in their own way. Okay, fine, I understand. But then Madoc, it's kind of like everything. He's a very good warrior, okay, and he's a very good warrior tactician, okay, but he's also very good in political stuff. Like, he's very good at plotting stuff, and he wants the power. Like, too many things without good reasoning. Why would he want to be the king when he actually wants to be a warrior? Like, why would a warrior want a political power? Like, yeah, of course, everyone wants more power. That's kind of easy to understand desire, but still, I felt like if he wants more power, if he wants to rule, I needed a deeper reason. The way like Jude had deeper reasons, no? Like, she didn't want power just for power's sake. She wanted to feel powerful because all her life she lived with creatures that are stronger than her. She felt threatened by them. She felt like her life is always in danger in a way. She felt inferior to them, so she wanted to overcompensate. I understand her, but I don't understand Madoc. Like, he's the most cunning one of them all. He's the real enemy, adversary of Jude, right? So I wanted him to be more complicated because the story is good if the villain is good, no? If the one you're fighting against is good. And I felt like Jude, as strong and witty and whatever she was, she didn't have good enough opponent. Like the Prince Balakin, he was a cruel guy, like, but he felt such a pushover. Like, he didn't feel threatening enough. Even Cardan should have been at least more menacing. He never felt menacing. Yes, he's cruel, but I don't know. So yeah, so Madoc, I felt like he didn't have a good enough reason to want the power. It was very superficial in my opinion. Maybe I missed something. Maybe I didn't care enough to see some details. Maybe. But I wanted his reasoning to be more complicated because I like this kind of stuff. This is a YA, but The Hunger Games is a YA. And The Hunger Games has a very complex story. I mean, it has a lot of layers to the story. The story is not very complicated, but it has a lot of layers to it. It makes you think about stuff. So the idea that this is a YA doesn't have to be like a reason for it to be so simplified, no? So yeah, Jude had layers. Jude was interesting, even if she was the typical YA heroine, which is always very capable. And then I felt like book 2 and 3 just didn't have enough interesting plot. In book 2, okay, Jude was just running around. Then she was captured, and then Cardan saved her, and the big twist was that he sent her away. Okay, they got married. I don't know, the middle part of the book was a bit meandering. Then the book 3, once she returned and she met with Cardan, and then again it started to meander. I started to lose interest. Cardan was turned into a snake. I kind of knew what she has to do, and then it took her such a long time to get there, and I was like, okay, we all know what you have to do, you know? So yeah, I felt like maybe if the third book has been cooking a little longer, maybe there would have been more ideas. I did enjoy it, especially the first book. I think had a lot of cool moments. As I said, I loved the royal assassination. It was such a big turn into the story. It took the story out of the Boys Over Flowers plot into something else. Even in Boys Over Flowers, the character, like the main cruel guy, he had more of a character development thanks to relationship with the girl. Really kind of put his life into different perspective. He had to change, and Cardan he had the one good speech, but is that enough for people to respect him? Like, he had the one good speech, and then he became a snake, and then he became this strong, I don't know, I felt like everything was given to him very easily, and he didn't earn that. Maybe he should have done something, not just saying that he wants people to follow him without being obliged. That was great, but then why would people follow you? Like, okay, you give them the freedom of choice, but why would they choose you? Like, I don't know, it felt like a little undercooked, you understand? And again, the world was really small, like such a small world. Like I'll put the map here. Okay, so this is the map of the world, and basically this small island is where they live. This is the Madoc stronghold, so this is where Jude lives. Hollow Hall is where one of the princes live. Also Cardan, the Crow Prince, he also lives here at the beginning. And this is the palace where they go. And then there is this other character, Locke's estate, which again doesn't feel very, very far. So I don't know I if this map is really out of proportion. I mean, it's obviously out of proportion, but it just feels such a small world. Like, where do everyone else lives? They always come to the palace, but where do they live? I would understand that if there were like many, many islands around, but we never see them. And because he's the king of Elheim. Like it sounds so grand, but what is going on in these places? So is there any city around here? Do the everyone lives on the rocks or on the trees? There's so many species. How to call them? Are they species or fairy creatures, or just so many creatures from folk tales and from legends and from myth? What do they do? Where do they live? What are their relationship with each other? Like I don't even know if I can call it world building or like just neighborhood building. It's just elf neighborhood or something. I think this map is so cute. Like, look at the little fox and like the little details. I do find this map very adorable and very cute, and I like the visual style of it. I like the little details. So I like it. I like it. By the way, they have frogs they can ride. Like, there's a lot of cute details. Maybe I sound too harsh, but there are a lot of cute details, and I think the world it's nice. I just wanted to feel bigger. Like in other fantasy worlds, you don't see everything, but you feel that there is more. And here, I didn't kind of feel the rest of it very much. I did enjoy when they went to the human world. That was fun. I feel like the third book, I was just finding so many plot conveniences. Tyrion, her sister, sorry again about the name, she just killed her husband, like as if he was just not needed for the story and it was just a plot device to get Jude back. I don't think the ending was all that strong in terms of plot, even in terms of excitement. Like, so I have a bit of a mixed feelings. I think I expected a bit more of this book because it's so beloved, because so many people like it, and I've seen some really cool fan art. Like, one of the reasons I decided to read this was because I saw a fan art of Cardan, of the Crow Prince, and he was on his throne with his attitude, and I felt, oh, this character, he would be such a bastard. I want to read about him. He's gonna be so interesting. And he wasn't. He was a cool concept. Maybe if I read this point of view, this book is very pretty. It has a lot of very pretty illustrations. Maybe I would enjoy this more, I don't know. Or maybe I'm just too old for those books. I should maybe not read them anymore. But yeah, even if it's not all that complicated, even if the world is just a carbon background, I felt like this could have been a little bit better, just a little bit better. But it's fine. It's still enjoyable. I am looking forward to see if they're going to do a movie adaptation, because I think it's going to look gorgeous. And also the movie might be a chance for them to develop some more of the side characters, and maybe like the acting can bring a different level to the characters. Like, I think Madoc, if he's played well, like with nuance, he can level up and he become more menacing and interesting. So I have given up rating books objectively. No, but I think what I can do from now on is just tell you my personal enjoyment rate, like how much I enjoyed the book, which has nothing to do with its quality. It's just my personal enjoyment. And for the Folk of the Air, I think my enjoyment, it's kind of like 6-7 out of 10, maybe like Crow Prince 7, but the rest are like 6. So yeah, I had a good time, but sometimes I think expectations are a bad thing. But you know, I cannot not have expectations. I bought this book because I saw people liked it. So when something is so hyped, I expected to love it, and I just liked it. So yeah, from now on I will really like have a lower expectations, because it feels like online people are hyping stuff too much. I don't know. Let me know if you have seen The Crow Prince. Maybe you loved it. Please don't hate me for maybe not loving it as much as you do. Maybe it's just my taste. I may prefer a bit more complicated stuff. But it was enjoyable, and I still love the fan art of this book. Honestly, so beautiful. And I'm looking forward to seeing the movie. Let's hope it gets made. I really want it to get made. I think I will really enjoy this as a movie. It's going to be so much fun. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Bye bye.